I was dating a guy for 4 years. We lived together for 3 of them and I thought he was the one. But then I found out that he was cheating on me, so I broke it off and moved out. 4 weeks after moving out, I started to get served with court papers. Apparently, while we were dating and living together, he stole my ID and social security number. I was shocked to find out that he had taken out thousands of dollars of debt in my name. He took out cash loans, opened and maxed out credit cards, leased vehicles, and even started a business. I had no clue until I was served with papers for non-payment. Since he would normally get the mail, he hid any paper correspondence and kept me in the dark. Any calls claiming I owed money, I chalked up as spam. By using my ID, social security number, and falsifying pay stubs in my name, he was able to put me over $500,000 in debt. You know that feeling when your world is crashing down faster than you can rebuild it? That's exactly how I felt. I had no other choice but to file for bankruptcy. I even had a detective from the DA's office in my county contact me, threatening me with committing fraud. I worked with them to give them as much information as I had, which cost me a couple $1,000s in criminal lawyer fees. I filed police reports for identity theft, but he was never arrested. And things just kept getting worse. Before I knew about all the identity theft, a few days after I moved out, I confronted him about a cable bill that I knew was still in my name. I asked him to switch it to his name since I wasn't living there anymore. This is when he told me it wouldn't take much for me to hire someone to find you, bind your hands and feet, beat you senseless, and leave you in a ditch to rot. I couldn't believe he was threatening me and I was terrified. And here's the kicker. A few weeks after we broke up, I found out that I was pregnant. I now have a 3-year-old that he has no idea exists. I never wanted to talk to him again and I see him as a monster. After we broke up, I did some investigative work. I found out that he was married, obviously separated but legally married, had 2 kids, and over $100,000 owed for child support. He also had a domestic abuse case against him from his wife and was on probation for drug use. I feel like I dodged a bullet. However, having all this done to me has damaged me for future relationships. I haven't been in a relationship since and have no desire to be in one. I don't trust anyone anymore. Despite all that I've been through, I count my blessings, and my child is certainly a blessing.
One time I was behind the register at Victoria's Secret. This customer walks in and immediately everybody spots her as a red flag. She's just picking up items, throwing them in her bag, not looking at sizes, not looking at colors. So everybody's like, everyone's on their walkie like, watch this customer. She's coming to the fitting room. She's headed to the cash wrap. Somebody get her. Check her ID. Get her. Get her. She has a bag full of stuff. And guess who gets her at the register? Me. So she comes to my register and she dumps out her stuff. And we're having a regular conversation. Hi, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. Her total comes up to probably between $700 to $900. It was expensive. My manager is at the register next to me, talking to me on the walkie. Ashley, make sure you get that ID. Don't matter what she's using, make sure you get that ID. So I ask her for the ID because she's paying credit. Why do you need to ask for my ID? Just take it, run it. I'm like, no ma'am, I'm sorry, I need your ID for the purchase. She starts to raise her voice at me. So she's raising her voice at me and I'm like, but I just couldn't, y'all. So I was like, I can raise my voice too. Do you want to play this game? Because I'll win, promise. And she's like, oh, well, what time do you get off work? And I'm like, I'm closing. I'm actually getting off at 11. Would you like to pick me up? And then she calls me stupid. She's like, you're fucking stupid. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to eat that. Then she calls me a dumb bitch. Whew. So I took a deep breath. And I said, fuck you, you dumbass bitch. Your broke ass can't even afford these motherfucking clothes and you over here trying to scam me. Fuck off my line. And honestly, me and her just started going back and forth at each other like, My manager's like, go to the back, go to the back, go to the back. I'm still cursing her out as I'm walking to the back of the store. I really thought I would get fired, but I actually didn't.
I have 2 kids, a daughter who's 30 and a son who's 27. Their mother isn't in the picture. I have a relatively high-earning job, and I was able to save $100K for each child to send them to college. My daughter received a full scholarship where her tuition and board was paid for, but I had to pay for my son's education and living expenses with the money I saved up. Both of my children knew I saved $100,000 for each of their college expenses, but my daughter got a full ride, and I told her I'd hold on to it until she wanted to use it for her wedding or a down payment for a house. So when my daughter asked me last week to buy a house, I gladly gave her the money. A few days later, I got an angry call from my son accusing me of favoritism and how I'm being unfair. I tried to explain to him that I just gave her the college fund I was saving up for her, which was the same amount as what I've given him for college. He still thinks I should have split the money evenly so it'd be more fair. So both of my kids are fighting right now. The money has always been my daughter's, and I already gave my son his share to pay for his college expenses. Both of them are college educated with good jobs, so it's not like my son desperately needs the money. So you guys tell me, am I the asshole in this case? Should I just split the money? My husband had a really bad headache, so I decided to take my daughters for a walk to the pharmacy to get him some medication. On our way there was a dog who was barking and lunging at us, but we didn't worry about it because he was on a chain. On our way back, the same dog was barking and lunging at us, but this time the chain snapped. I saw a big black mass moving fast towards us in my peripheral, and I just picked up my daughters and ran. My twins are both 5, and that's like 40 pounds each, but adrenaline strength is real. The dog was right behind me, and my daughter on my left was slipping, and I didn't want her to fall and get bitten. We were passing a house with a fence, and I kind of tossed her over the fence into the lawn and kept running with my other daughter. I was screaming for help when someone came over and scared the dog away. I ran to find my other daughter to find she was unhurt, but she was crying and saying I left her, and why couldn't I have thrown her other sister instead? We got home, and my daughter ran to my husband crying, "Mommy threw me over the fence." After telling him what happens, I thought he would understand, but he started saying things like, "What if she got hurt? What if she fell on some glass and cut herself? What if the dog stopped chasing you and jumped over the fence at her?" I was already guilty, and I was like, "Okay, sorry, I get it." But he kept going, so I finally snapped. He wasn't there, so it's easy for him to say what I should have done. I did it to save both of them. My future mother-in-law is the absolute worst person I've ever met in my life. I'm 30 years old, and my boyfriend is 31, and we've been together for 8 months. He's the sweetest and most caring man I've ever met in my life, but the biggest surprise is when I met his mother. I'm a natural redhead, so when we sat down for dinner, she asked me if my parents had the same color hair. And then she proceeds to ask me, does the carpet match the drapes? I looked over to my boyfriend, who seemed equally as shocked, but he didn't say anything. And when I didn't respond back, she said, "Don't worry, I'll ask my son about it later." She then went on to attack my appearance and said my hair was too curly and I really needed to learn how to run a brush through my hair and think about my appearance more when I'm out with her son. And when I lost my appetite, she told me it was a good thing that I'm watching what I eat because it would be a shame if I got any bigger. This was my first meeting with this woman, and as soon as I got into my car, I burst into tears until I got home. I told my boyfriend I needed some time. He went into apology overload, and this started by sending me flowers to my office every day and leaving me messages. He said he spoke with his mom and promised this would never happen again. With this reassurance, I decided to give it another chance. So this couple comes in together to buy an engagement ring, and they had a budget of about $20,000, which is a lot for an engagement ring. But the ring that she happened to pick out was about $35,000, which is a lot of money. And she was really adamant about picking it, and he was kind of reserved, like, it is a lot of money. But she was like, no, if you love me, you'll buy it, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you know what? You're going to be my wife, the mother of my kids, whatever makes you happy. So after they finally decide, I pack it up for them. I'm like, here you go. Have a great marriage. Have a great life. Goodbye. About 3 weeks later, the fiance comes in, and I'm thinking she just wants to get the ring size or something. And she's like, can you guys take out the diamond and replace it with a cubic zirconium? Cubic zirconium is a very cheap substitute for a diamond. So I was like, yeah, we can do that, but just give us 2 or 3 days. So she leaves, and I call her fiance because I was like, oh, this is really suspicious. And he had no idea that she came into the shop or that she was coming in. So he calls me 2 days later, and he finds out that she was going to break up with him. She would have kept that diamond, and she would have given him the fake one. He would have returned it, and he would have gotten no money back. Talk about me. I was 21 when I found out I was pregnant with twin girls. My sister is 28 and has had 14 miscarriages. She's only had 1 successful pregnancy, which resulted in my 4-year-old niece. I'm not against having kids, but I definitely wanted to wait until I graduated with my degree and I was married to my significant other. From the start, my mom has been saying I should give my babies to my sister since she deserves them more than I do. And my sister completely agrees. I told them hell no, and my mom calls me a selfish bitch. Throughout my pregnancy, my sister has been begging me to give her at least 1 baby since I'm having 2. The last time I saw her, we were having lunch and she started babbling about keeping one of my babies, so I paid for my meal and left and haven't seen any of them since then. After I have my girls, I log on to Facebook to hundreds of threatening messages from my family and friends about how I stole my sister's babies and ruined her life. She posted a picture of her nursery that she had for my babies. There's so many posts about how generous I am for going through the pregnancy and giving my sister the babies. She told everyone I was giving her my babies, and she has my pictures of them in the NICU saying how she can't wait to bring them home. My husband and I were expecting our first daughter, and he suggested the name Tiffany, and I fell in love. When I asked what made him pick it, he said he saw it in a movie. I didn't think much of it, and so a couple weeks later, I called my sister-in-law to let her know we're going to name our daughter Tiffany. She was super surprised because she said she never wanted to name her child after her husband's high school girlfriend. I was really confused, but then she told me that they were together from sophomore year of high school to junior year of college. I knew he had a long-term relationship, but I never knew the girl's name. After hanging up, I confronted my husband, and he tried blowing it off at first, but eventually admitted that it was true. I told him I'm refusing to name my daughter after his ex-girlfriend, and he told me it's too late, I'm overreacting, and I can't change my mind since I'm only due in 5 more weeks. I basically cried to get as much information as I can when he finally told me that she had contacted him because she was getting married and was having second thoughts. My husband admitted that talking to her made him realize he never stopped having feelings for her, but he loved me too. The reason he suggested the name was because he knew he couldn't leave me to be with her, so he wanted something to honor her with. What do I do?